Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips, and the college basketball season is right around the corner. And boy, do we have a guest that is going to help us kick that off just right. But as we talk about this, as we kind of gear up and get excited with these exhibition games, this talk, the anticipation, you think about just the emotional roller coaster that is college basketball, the joy, the sadness, everything in between, the excitement. It's kind of a microcosm of what we get out of life a little bit.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Really valid point there about it being a microcosm of life. And I've been thinking as we were preparing for this one, a couple of stories. A young lady by the name of Sophia Forches. Hopefully I said her name correctly. Young lady was an Annunciation student, is an Annunciation student in Wisconsin, was there on the day of the shooting into the church, just was released from the hospital. And if you go online, you can find her going home from the hospital. But where did she go? She went back to school. Before she got home, she went back and she gets out of this limo and she's embraced by her classmates, by her friends. And she's met with this joy, this jubilation that she's there. And then you compare it to the sadness of a young lady named Kimber Mills. Kimber Mills was at a party, a bonfire party, a high school party in Alabama. And some deranged individual opened fire. This young lady was killed. Her family kept her alive long enough so that they could harvest her organs for donation. When she was taken from her room to the operating room, the hallways of the hospital were lined with her classmates from her high school. Give yourself time. If you check that out online, it's going to touch you, the bottom of your soul. But the joy and the sadness. The joy, homecoming at Howard University, homecoming at Lincoln University, all that comes with that, homecoming at college, at both places. Gunfire. One dead at Lincoln. Injuries at both Howard and Lincoln. So I just thought that this was an appropriate time. And people can say, you're Pollyanna, you're Pollyanna, you're Pollyanna. I would rather be on that side than doom. So I'm begging everybody, spread joy, share joy, eliminate as much as you can the sadness as we go. And please, one of the beauties is basketball season is here. One of the negatives is a lot of people become isolated. They stay inside. There's less outdoor activity. Look out for each other. Protect each other. And let's get back to a world where it's always joyful. I know that's Pollyanna, but man, that would be my wish for all of us, that we can celebrate and feel joy every single day in every activity. So not quite a Martelli minute, but I felt it was important.
I mean, beautifully said. But we still have to get to that Martelli minute.
The Martelli minute every morning.
6:30 a.m.
Instagram.
At Phil_Martelli.
Brought to you by Status Solutions. What's Status Solutions doing? They're bringing safety technology to our schools so that our young people can go to their buildings and learn and socialize and grow. And every single community, if you go to statussolutions.com, you'll find out a way that you can help the young people in your area. We appreciate them and always have. So here's our first Martelli minute. Avoid potholes, not just while you're driving, but in life. Avoid the potholes. Challenges and difficulties are welcomed opportunities to measure your growth. Challenges and opportunities are welcome opportunities to measure your growth. They're not walls. They could just be seen as hurdles. I have to go up, over, around, however I have to do it to keep moving forward. The willingness to admit I was wrong demonstrates your courage and your intelligence. Despite what we've been told, many of us by our grandmothers, that we're always right, I was wrong is a powerful statement. Enjoy your journey. It's yours. Enjoy it. Healthier relationships flourish when we learn to talk with, not at people. Healthier relationships, talk with, not at somebody. Eyes, heart, and minds open for opportunities to be an everyday hero. It's going to be there, but you're going to have to see it, you're going to have to feel it, and you're going to have to think it. When your opportunity comes, be ready to be an everyday hero. And our guest, every single guest, has been a hero, and today is no different. Well, Jarrett, last week, Meredith Foote, that was unbelievable. And it goes again on this pantheon of guests that we've had. What a difference she's making. And now it's turning towards November. So you know what that means.
It's about that time.
It's about that time when the ball starts bouncing for real. And today's guest is at the top of the list in this profession, this coaching profession. Think about it. A graduate who starred at his school, played well enough to be a team captain, 3-time NCAA tournament participant, now stars as the head coach at his alma mater, which is very, very, very challenging to do. We're going to get into that. A head Division I coach who took a step back to become an associate or an assistant coach at his school, becoming almost a coach in waiting. Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Okay, let me repeat that. Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. NABC Coach of the Year. Guardian of the Game, which is a really significant statement that you are a Guardian of the Game award recipient. 8 Sweet 16s, 16 NCAA tournaments, 1 championship game, 5 Big Ten titles, 2 postseason tournaments, USA Basketball gold medal, and above all of that, a leader of men, not just the men in his program, but the men who are coaching. He has become a go-to guy for every single coach in this country in bridging the gap with the NCAA and the NABC. And he's done it without pissing anybody off, which is virtually impossible. That's why I'm delighted to welcome Matt Painter to the Make a Difference podcast.
I wondered where you were going with it there at the end. But maybe I should have, right? Like maybe like that's what. So to set the stage here, like I worked in the basketball committee, you know, and I took Coach Martelli's spot. So I owe him a lot because whenever I would run up with stuff that just like, man, Conzo Martin was on the thing with him. So when I came on it, I'd be like, Conzo, this doesn't make sense. And he'd say, call me when it doesn't make sense. I'm like, okay. So then after I'd call him, he'd say, yeah, he goes like, you know, Phil and I would talk about it. And he goes, it just like blows our mind. So I would start to call Phil. And so like, what does this mean? Like, why, like, and so when you're sitting there, I always tell every coach, I said, it was very educational to be in the room. But when you're in the room, especially if the other coach is not there, like you have to speak. And that's what Phil like taught me. Like you have to speak, and you can't speak from Purdue or the Big Ten or high major. You got to speak from low major. because there's Division II people in some rooms, but sometimes there's not. You got to speak for everybody. And like that was a lot of what like high major people like who complain about the landscape today, they have no problems in comparison to people that are at a low major level. No problems. Like that's like it is so much easier to navigate when your brand's stronger than somebody in today's landscape. They have made it so much harder for a team to grow at a low to mid-major level. And it's harder at a high major level, but in comparison, it isn't. So that was the one thing that I really learned from Coach Martelli was you got to speak up, not for yourself all the time. You got to speak up for college basketball.
Amen.
And what's frustrating is like there's days like you feel like you helped. Then there's days you feel like, man, I don't know if I'm the right person for the job. Like, golly, I didn't get anywhere here. I talked a lot. I raised my voice a lot, but I didn't get anywhere. And that's what's been frustrating to be on the front row is that when you try something, you put your best foot forward and you really think it's best for the game, and then it doesn't go through because of legalities or difference of opinion or whatever. Like you just that's when it's frustrating because at the end of the day, getting a scholarship and playing sports, I don't care what sport, maybe outside of like the Army, Navy, or whatever, has saved more lives for young people because it's opportunity.
Yep.
That's where a lot of this gets lost. So like when people say, well, these kids should have been paid for a long time, I get you to a degree, but man, I felt like I took more in my situation as a player than I received. And so I'm very blessed for the opportunity that I had because that's why I'm here. Is because I got with the right people. I got with Gene Cady. I got with Bruce Weber. I got with Tom Ryder, Frank Kendrick, Steve Lavin, the guys that coached me in college. Like they man, like I owe them a lot. I didn't walk away from the equation saying, boy, they burned me. Like, no, I walked away saying, man, I'm blessed to be coached by Gene Cady and have Purdue next to my name because Purdue's got a hell of a brand.
And then the whole idea of in these meetings you're heard. They hear you, but you're never convinced that anybody's listening. Yeah. There's a big difference between hearing and listening, and listening skills with young people is a really, really, really big deal. So, Matt, I just had to go on my one rant. This is my one rant, and then we're getting into you. But we've taken another good thing. In exhibition games, which you and I both know will increase next year to a bigger number. We've taken that, and now it's become over the top. We have exhibition games on TV, and we have them being presented by the national media as this is the biggest deal, and this is a surprising result, So I just sent a note. So I'm not talking out both sides of my mouth. I sent a note last night to Joe Lenardi, who's a dear friend. And I said, Joe, I want to put a wager down for the first coach and the first fan base that is on the bubble in March that will say, but do you know in our exhibition game, we beat the hell out of so-and-so? They're going to do it. And it's going to take this wonderful thing, which is meant to really give these kids a chance to play different opponents after they've worked out so hard and all this other stuff. That's my concern about. How about if we go back in time and just open up our secret scrimmages, charge people if you want to charge them, and let the coaches coach it as, okay, here's a situation. Now we have, and I'm not knocking anybody. I mean, this spectacular freshman for Duke played 39 minutes in an exhibition game. That's my thing.
Yeah. We've went 3 years in a row of playing on the road at Arkansas, at Creighton, and just at Kentucky, and we've lost all three of them. And it's the best thing for you when you lose and it doesn't count. Because always in your life, when you lose, you're like, man, you're 8-4, and man, you wanted to be 9-4, and now you're 8-5, and you're like, man, it just keeps mounting. Well, this isn't. And I always say everybody has real problems, but until those real problems get exposed, deep down, your players don't know that. And now our players know what the real problems are. And to that, I thought Mark Pope and I thought Kentucky was really good. I thought he's a fantastic coach, and he's put together another good team here in his second year, and it was just good for us. Just the experience, the environment. That's a Rupp Arena's big time. I'd never been in there to play in a college game, and so like for us, like going to Arkansas and losing in overtime, going to Creighton, like now when we come back, I think that we have intelligent players. I know we have intelligent players, and now like when you're dealing with people of high intellect, they're going to adjust when they have failure. They're going to adjust. Like some people are hard-headed, stubborn, and and so like it's really, really helped us. But like anything, sometimes when we get a little bit, now it gets into, when TV gets involved, like you're gonna have some of the things that you mentioned.
Right. It's just
I have to say, Matt, I work at a bar in Philly, and on Friday night, a guy came in. He's like, "Can you get the Purdue Kentucky game on?" I turned around and said, this one doesn't count, right? Like nothing's happening. Like this doesn't matter for you. I'm sure you felt good about it, but
so Matt, you finish at Purdue, terrific career, and now you start your journey. Take us through your coaching journey and really some of the lessons that you picked up at the lower levels.
Right. So my first job was at Washington and Jefferson in Washington, PA, right outside of Pittsburgh. It's right there in the Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania tri-state area, right as you cross 70 there. We were undefeated in Division III for the season. We were in a league that didn't get a bid for the NCAA tournament, so we had to get in that large one. So we were undefeated, and we were the last at-large team to go in. And so we get to the Elite Eight. We get beat by Wittenberg at Wittenberg, which I'm 23 years old, so I just think it's a total setup, right? It's like playing North Carolina at North Carolina to go to the Final Four. It's like, and Wittenberg's a prestigious program, and they were very good, and they went there to the Final Four, and I think they got beat in their first game, if I'm not mistaken. Then I went to a Division II school, Barton College in Wilson, North Carolina. Then I was actually at Campbell University. It's not on my resume because I was there from May to August, 3 months. So, and Campbell has the oldest and longest camp. So I was there to run their camp. John Wooden started their camp, but they had a lot of prestigious guys through the years, Bones McKinney, all these guys that had worked their camp and ran that camp. But I only stayed for 3 months. So I went to Eastern Illinois for 3 years, worked for a guy named Rick Samuels, who was there for 25 years at Eastern Illinois. Had a great experience there, got my master's. Then I left when Bruce Weber left Purdue and got the Southern Illinois job. I went with him, and I was his assistant there for 5 years. And then I was the head coach for 1 year at Southern Illinois. And it's very interesting because I got the job because Roy Williams left Kansas and went to North Carolina. And then Bill Self left Illinois and went to Kansas. And then Bruce Weber left Southern Illinois and went to Illinois.
Wow.
So anytime I see Roy Williams, I'm like, that's my guy. I love Roy Williams. Like, he's my guy. He doesn't even know why he's my guy, but he's my guy. And then we lost a lot, and we got picked 5th in our league at Southern Illinois, and we won the league by 5 games. We were 17-0 going into our final game, and then we ended up being 17-1. We lost to Greg McDermott in Northern Iowa the last game of the season. We get in the NCAA tournament. We lose on a last-second shot against Alabama, I think in an 8-9 game. If it's not, it's a 7-10 game. And but really had a great experience. And then to come back here to Purdue to be an assistant coach for a year under Coach Katie, which was, a little surreal because I had tried to be his assistant 3 different times and I never got the job. But then I always said, like, I wasn't good enough to be the assistant at Purdue, but now I'm good enough to be the head coach at Purdue, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's fine. At the end, it worked out for me. So, but no, I think I have an unbelievable advantage in college coaching because I was with Rick Samuels, I was with Bruce Weber, and I was with Gene Katie. And people don't do what they hear. People normally do what they see. And I had 3 really good role models, mentors, guys that did things the right way. And now when a lot of things come up in our business that we're not proud of, I'm always blessed because I could have went another direction, right? If I'm get hired by the wrong guy that doesn't have the same values, like, you have a decision to make, right? You have a decision to make in our business. A lot of people don't realize that decision. That's hard for people. And you got a family and you have kids. And so when people, go down that road, people are always like, well, like, this guy's this or that. I'm like, well, he got put in a tough spot. Like what I'm not
Right.
supporting what he's doing, but like, you have to understand things. But I always lean back to saying, man, I was fortunate to have those guys. And then I was also fortunate. I always say this, anybody can have a good team, but to have a good program, you have to have some discipline. Academics have to be important. And I had a blueprint through Coach Katie and Coach Weber and what they did at Purdue for 25 years that I more or less followed. Like, I do things differently basketball wise, but I do things differently basketball wise because the game's changed. Like, you change with the game, but you don't change your values. Like, I always tell those guys, like, it's the damnedest thing in the world. Like, guys don't wear jock straps. It's the craziest thing in the world. Like, a lot of things have changed, but the anatomy hasn't, right? The anatomy has stayed the same. And like, they'll look at me when they get hit and I'll be like, hey, I don't know what to tell you, brother. I told you, like, none of you guys would do it. I know it makes everybody uncomfortable, but like, there's certain things that change and there's certain things in life that do not change. And so I was very, very fortunate to be able to be under those guys and learn how to do the job. Like, some people are really good coaches and they don't know how to do the job.
Amen.
Yes. Some guys know how to do the job, but they're not very good coaches. Like, I don't know where I lie, but I know I had good role models and the guys that I have there, and I'm very fortunate of that.
So, Matt, you're 32 years old and you're the head coach at Purdue. With all that you just described, how did you know you were ready?
I wasn't. I wish I wish I was more ready. I always tell, like, Robbie Hummel, I was like, I wish I could coach you now. And the one thing that I learned a lot through competition and the guys I competed against. Like, people will say, like, hey, you're a good X and O guy. You're this. I'm good at stealing shit.
Yes.
That's what I'm good at. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to incorporate it in kind of how we do it. But whoever did that for the Milwaukee Bucks, like, I stole it from you. Like, but I put a guy against a 1-3-1 and I put a body on him a lot of times and go against it because Draymond Green did it when Bill Carmody was running his 1-3-1 at Northwestern. And I stole that. And I do it to this day, like, whatever. Bo Ryan, like, some of the things that Bo Ryan did. Thad Matta was go look at Thad Matta's numbers in the Big Ten in his 10, 11, 12 years. Unbelievable. He was big time in our league. Bruce Weber, obviously, I learned probably the most from because I was in practices with him. But like, those guys at that level that have like had more experience than me, that have been through it or whatever, I just learned a lot from them. And so there's an old story that they have here at Purdue. They used to have the travel partners. Okay. There used to be 10 teams, very similar to the way the Pac-12 was. You play your Thursday, Saturday, USC and UCLA are travel partners. Arizona State are travel partners. Well, Purdue's was Indiana, obviously, right? And so they would always try to get everything figured out in their scouts going into their Thursday game and their Saturday game. So they'd split the scouts, they'd do their work, and they'd be worried about two teams. Well, you play one game first. I always say that in the NCAA tournament, like, it's the first game. What about that second game? We'll be organized, we'll do our stuff, but all hands on deck. We need to win this one, because if we lose this one, who cares about the second game?
Right.
Yeah, we're going on spring break. And so Indiana would go and play Michigan while Purdue played Michigan State. And so finally, Coach Katie and the staff was like, the hell with worried about Saturday's game. Bob Knight's going to do the scouting report for us for Saturday. We just need to worry about Thursday. And then when people hear that, they're like, what are you talking about? Well, you would watch Indiana play that team that you were going to play on Saturday, play on Thursday. And then whatever he did, they would just do. And like, that was that. But like, you're learning from, maybe the best college coach ever, if not one of them. Like, and Gene Katie was one of the best college coaches ever too. But it didn't. That's the understanding about checking your ego and then learning the game. Like that's what you gotta keep learning. When you think you've got it figured out, that's when you should shut it down. You got to keep learning. Players change, schematic things change, a lot of those things change. But I've learned a lot from Tom Izzo and Bo Ryan and all those guys. All those guys. I mean, you learn from everybody. And I think if you keep an open mind to that, it really helps you in terms of processing things and just simply doing what's best for your current team.
How about I'm going to go in another direction later about Indiana high school basketball. I need to know more about that. I know you're a historian and you're in the thick of it, being in the Hall of Fame. But I want the insider's view of this. When I went to the Big Ten to work with Juwan, I thought it was a black and blue division. Everybody just slammed into each other. The biggest, strongest teams would win. And my first time through, I was absolutely blown away with the offensive minds that are in that league.
Yeah.
Can you take us through the evolution of like it becoming an offensive focused league?
Yeah. They like you don't sometimes get credit for like who you are because the brand that's been set. And I'll like try to like explain that to people. Like we were like the fourth best offensive efficient team in transition last year. Okay. And you wouldn't stereotypically think that because Big Ten, kind of the same thoughts that you said. We didn't rebound the ball well enough, so our usage wasn't high enough. But when we had Zach Edey, we were pretty good in transition. He'd get a quick outlet to Braden and we'd go. But if you say that to somebody in recruiting, they'll look at you like you got horns coming out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will not believe you. Like I had an assistant one time that worked at Michigan and he came to Purdue and I went and we did a home visit and I said, we have the most Big Ten championships of any Big Ten school. And then I moved on in my presentation and I talked and I got to the car and he was like, Paint, you just can't say that. You just can't say that you've had the most Big Ten championships in the history of the Big Ten. I go, why not? He goes, because it's not true. I go, well, who has them then? He goes, Indiana. So I show him the numbers and I'm like, no, we do. And we've had it for a long, long time. And you're going back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So take some of it with a grain of salt. I go, you've worked in the Big Ten for 5 years and you didn't realize it. That we have the most Big Ten championships. So like sometimes things just get like lost because of brand. Like you work somewhere that has a really, really strong brand, period. Like period. Even when like Michigan has been down, they'll get a lot of CBS games. And they'll be like, we don't want to be on CBS when we're down. Right. Like, you know, like, and this is 15 years ago, 16 years ago, whenever, but they have such a strong brand. And so like you'll see that like in the league, that really helped us because sometimes in recruiting, no matter how successful you are, your brand's your brand. And like that's what I said last week in a podcast. I was like, I don't want to get better players than we have right now. I want to get the same players because those are the guys that have worked for us. But we've also had to come with some hard truths to get to that point. Because like we battled and battled. We've had one McDonald's All-American in 20 years, but yet we got the most wins in the Big Ten in the last 17 years. Mm-hmm. So you're like, well, how can you do that without getting a McDonald's All-American? Like, how can you do that? Well, you got to get guys that are at that next tier that love basketball that collectively make you a good team. It's still a team game. And then that's how it is for us has really shaped like who we are. And we used to fight it, and now we embrace it, and it's really helped us.
So we have people all over that watch and comment to us, and obviously we can have this East Coast bias about high school basketball. Could you really take us inside Indiana high school basketball? What is that experience like?
Yeah, well, like for me, I played at a school that's not a traditional power. So I played at actually they were a wrestling power. So they won the state in wrestling 5 years in a row before I was a freshman in high school. And everybody told me I should go and transferred. My parents were split, so I could have went and played at Muncie Central. And that's who, in Hoosiers, that's who Milan beat. Muncie Central's had 8 state titles. They got their last one in 1988, which was my junior year in high school, but they have 8 state titles. I still think that's the record. But it was everybody versus everybody. I think it's lost a little bit because of that. I think that was kind of the mystique, when Milan beat Muncie Central, everybody versus everybody. In the last year that it was just one class, my high school, which is around 850 students, they got runner-up state champs. They had 2 kids that were mid-major players, and that was like really, really cool. And then as they now went into a class system, it's been a little bit different. It's still cool. The coaching is great. What people have to understand that we have about half the high schools as the state of Michigan does, the state of Indiana. So right. Michigan has twice as many high schools as the state of Indiana. The state of Ohio has twice as many high schools as the state of Indiana. The greater metropolitan Chicago area, the population there is the same as our whole state. So it's a very rural area. So to have the players through the years that we've had, but yet really half the population, it kind of even shows how good it's been. But our coaches are really good. There are some very good high school coaches there. I think it's been hard for them because there's so much change, but it's hard for everybody across the United States because, the prep schools are so prevalent. See, in the East Coast, the prep school was invented for East Coast kids 100 years ago who couldn't get into the Ivy League.
Yes.
And then they would go to a PG, and then they would, hopefully get into the Ivy League from there. So those basketball programs that are, historic academic institutions for over 100 years, those are the ideal ones that are there because the basketball is really good. The academics are really good. And then now they've had the prep schools that come in that have been there before, and they've made an emphasis to basketball. They're really good, but you can't sidestep the fact that it takes away from high school basketball. Because it does. And it's here nor there. It's not our decision to make, but it makes it, just like our job has gotten harder in college, I think it's gotten a lot harder for the high school coach too.
So Matt, let's go into the day-to-day operation. Your managerial style now with a much bigger staff. When you were with Bruce Weber, there were probably 3 or 4 of you in a staff meeting. Now you might have a staff meeting of 12, 13, 4. Has that altered your managerial style? What is your style? What would you say to we have business people that watch this? What's their
I would say I've grown to be a collaborator. I've grown to I don't want somebody not to say something because they think I won't receive it. I don't care if I agree with you or don't agree with you. You still need to say what you mean. I don't like emotional speakers. I want you to, when you speak about the game of basketball, I want you to speak because, that's what you believe. And why do you believe that way? You should be able to give me a dissertation why you believe that way. As long as you're there, I'm cool. I just don't want your hunch. That's always what I tell them. Hey, man, I want you to come back and say, Paint, how we're handling these ball screens, this isn't going to work, and this is why. Let me show you. Then I'm great with that. I want that, but I don't want to quiet anybody in the room. But I also want them to understand the parameters of how we're going to do things. So it helps for me. All of our GAs have been former players, except one guy in the last 12 years. So on my staff, Paul Lusk has been with me twice. Brandon Brantley and I have been together 12 years. My Dobo's been with me for 18 years. Our secretary's been with 13, 14 years. Our academic guy's been with me for 20 years. Treat people the right way. More than anything that you could do as a coach, if you could treat people the right way, you have no idea how much of effect that will have on them in their life, because that's what they've seen as a leadership style. And that's something for us that, this isn't a school district. When we bring somebody here, it's our job to help them. It's our job to be honest with them, though. And I think sometimes honesty is going to lose some recruits for you. I think sometimes honesty is going to offend some people. But at the end of the day, honesty is always respected, always. And that's what we try to do with our staff. That's what we try to do with our guys, but just keep showing up and keep helping them more than anything. But take people that fit. When we take people that don't fit, it's not their fault. It's
Amen.
our fault.
Amen. Amen.
It's our fault.
Amen.
And when that happens, like, I feel guilt. I feel a lot of guilt because it's like, I knew better. I knew better. But like when you take guys, see, for us, like we redshirt some, and like I should have redshirted as a player, and I didn't. I just didn't play a year, and so like that kind of sits in my craw that a lot of times I'm advocating for someone to do it because I think that's going to help their career. I know it's going to help their career. And like the only people that I've really struggled with is the people that I thought about redshirt and I didn't. Every person that I've ever redshirted, it always comes back and say, okay, tell your story 5 years later. And they're always like, the best thing that happened to me was I redshirted. It allowed me to develop. It allowed me to grow. It allowed me to take a deep breath. I heard somebody say that, like, I goes, those guys are just like Paint was speaking Chinese to me. Like Paint was speaking a foreign language to me. Like I had no idea what he was saying. Then all of a sudden my second year is like, oh, this is fun.
Right.
I know what I'm doing. It's people have no idea, like it's overwhelming. And so we try to do a lot of individual film and really get out in front of things. But it's like somebody who plays two positions and they got to learn two positions. That's hard as a 19-year-old. When you can lock into one position and play, you've limited your chances to play. Like when you can play two spots, guard two spots, oh man, as a 19-year-old, you've helped yourself. But it's harder to do. And so like sometimes guys don't like quite understand that. And sometimes some guys come in and they're not on, like they need you. Like you're needed more.
Yes.
Like some teams, like we have a really good team right now. Doesn't mean we'll have a really good season. I would hope we can, but like we have a good team. So it's harder to get in at this moment than it would have been, say, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer's freshman year when they both started.
Started as freshmen.
Yeah.
And still there. So, Matt, so I'm going to describe Jarrett. There was a key in there. I want you to, you're a young guy. You need to really be focused on semantics matter. Matt used the word with. People work with him, not for him. That's a really big deal. That's a managerial style.
Yeah.
So a fierce competitor, but with a calm demeanor, thought-filled guy. How have you maintained your dignity in such a tough environment?
Yeah, it's like when you start off and you're trying to figure things out. Like I was all about recruiting when I first started, and now I'm all about evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been my biggest difference. And I've always was like, I got to work harder than somebody. But did I know as much as I should have known about who I was recruiting? No. I was just trying to get them. Saw them play, liked their talent. And so the big shift for me 12 years ago was really quit thinking about talent and start thinking about production. Like, have you ever taken somebody and said, they take care of the ball and they make their free throws? And that got me over the hump to take that kid. That rarely gets said. But yet when sometimes things get you over the hump, it's because they're really athletic. So the more athletic you are, the better chance you have of being ranked higher. That's a fact. Don't base things on rankings. It's crazy. You're ranking people all over the country. It's not on an equal set.
No, it's on a wow factor. It's on I saw this play.
Right. So I always kind of look at it like we're recruiting out of structure in the summer, but yet we're playing in structure in the winter. So if I don't see him or see his stats with the team that's in structure, it's hard to compare out of structure to structure. So like I got to see his stats. And it doesn't mean somebody can like not have great stats and they can't grow as a player. That's part of projection. That's part of looking at things. You got to take everything in. But that piece right there has really changed how I go about things. That has really changed because at the end of the day, if a guy rebounds in high school, he's normally rebounds in college. There's certain things that are going to be you're going to translate. It just is. If you take care of the ball, you normally take care of the ball. Like if you're a good free throw shooter, you're normally a good free throw shooter in college. So looking at some things, and my reason for this was we struggled getting some of those guys that were really talented, but yet we would take guys that were really productive that people didn't look at. And then people are like, man, like that was an unheralded guy. Well, he averaged 23 in high school. Like his team won the state. He shot a good percentage. He shot good free throws. He's a coachable person. He gets good grades. He's kept his nose clean. I think there's a lot of qualities there that should have him like, leading to being a really good college player. So like we kind of had to change our thought, and we started doing the personality testing. And to me, that was really good because it didn't give me the answers. It just gave me more questions. Like if you're a college basketball coach, think of yourself as a, HR, and you're vetting. That's all you're doing is vetting. But we all know, like if Phil had to go deal with somebody in Philadelphia and talk to somebody that he knows for 30 years, he knows when that guy tells him something, he's shooting him straight. But when he has to deal with somebody who's a guy that he doesn't know and nobody in the equation, that's hard to navigate. It's just hard to navigate because you don't know what you don't know. And so like trying to find some things like that personality testing to just get conversations going and just get people talking and say, why is this? And why is this? And why is this? Because at the end of the day, like we are sell.
Yes.
And you got to be selling to someone that you ultimately know is your guy. If you are, then keep selling. But until you can get to that point to where this is our guy, like you could be just working really hard and you're hurting your program. Because deep down, I always call it a 6-month surprise. So when you hire somebody or you get someone on your team, in 6 months, you're getting a surprise. You just are in some capacity, right? We just hope it's a positive surprise. Man, he's better than I thought. Man, he's even a better kid than I thought. But man, he's got a lot of a substance around. Like you want that instead of saying, oh boy, I didn't know he was that social. And I didn't know he had 10 girlfriends and like, like, so that's really the kind of changes, adjustments that we've tried to make. But with that being said, like, I think when you have some success, like being able to block that and saying, you don't have it figured out. Like I do not have it figured out. And I think that approach allows you to keep growing, but it also keeps you grounded and keeps you humble to where like, because my thoughts are going forward. Like my thoughts are always like, okay, we're going to do everything in our power to win right now. But how we work is working towards the future. We have to do best for today, but we also have to do what's best for tomorrow. And sometimes that answer, those two things can collide. You hope it's check mark for both, but then you got to make some decisions. I do a lot for tomorrow. I do a lot for the big picture.
Sustainability is a deal. So I have two left for you, Matt. And one is this. You just kind of took us through. Is there one player or one situation that has impacted you that it's like a quick recall? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. The example would be for me, when I was a high school coach, I cut a kid who was 5'4", and he came back to me wanting to be a manager and then made the team and became all league and got a scholarship to college and all this other stuff. And that always has impacted me because he had a dream. I was the block to the dream. And then he joined me to make his dream become a reality. That changed me. And I was a young kid when I coached him, but he has stayed with me forever. Is there one player, one situation that you say, you know what? I'm going to stand on that guy's shoulder for the rest of my career.
Yeah. The thing that jumps out to me, so to set the table here, we wouldn't have went to the NCAA tournament during COVID. Okay. So they just don't count that year, right? Because it evaporated. So we've been to 10 straight NCAA tournaments. We're the only team in America in the last 8 years that have had a 4-seeder or better in the country. We didn't go to the tournament for 2 years. And then the 6 years before that, we did. So we've been 16 out of 18 with the asterisk being there's a COVID year in there that they don't count. We had a player who's now working for Big Ten Network and Phil Davis. Okay. And so he set up some things. We lost 2 years in a row. He set up some things like within our players, like punishment for when they didn't show up on time. They didn't do anything. And he didn't say anything to me about it. He just did it. So we had 6 a.m. workouts and the 6 a.m. lifts. And if you showed up 5 seconds late, he stood by the door. And then you got on the Versa climber for 45 minutes. Then you got your workout in. And they knew I was up against it. We had lost 2 years in a row. They knew it. I didn't know that they knew it. So I went out of my mind a little bit, but I was trying to do what's best for our program. And I'm not from a zone background. Coach Katie didn't zone. Bruce Weber didn't zone. Rick Samuels had a little bit of an amoeba to him when I was there, which I kind of thought was cool. But it's just not my thing. Well, I was like, well, I got to adjust to my personnel. And we shifted, and I went in with a legendary high school coach named Basil Malby here, who's won 4 state titles in the state of Indiana. And I went and met with him 3 times. He had this matchup zone. Eddie Schilling had used it a lot, got it from him. Judd Heathcote had used it at Michigan State. And so I went to him. I studied all the breakdown drills. We did it all. I was ready. We're gonna zone some. We're definitely gonna zone when you take the ball out of bounds underneath.
Yes.
After non-conference, we were 12th in our league in defensive field goal percentage. We were 13th in our league in 3-point defensive field goal percentage, or there was a flip-flop. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't me. Even though I thought it was best for our personnel, it obviously isn't. We're starting over. Bruce Weber always had a thing when you struggled during the season defensively, quit trying to fix it with, your voice, quit trying to fix it with yelling. You got to start over. You got to start from scratch. And you'll be like, well, it's January 11th, brother. Like, how are we going to, he didn't care. He'd start at the root of your stance. He'd start at jumping to the ball. He'd start 1 pass away, 2 pass away, use the free throw line. The same thing your high school coach did. We're not in the right position defensively. And that's where I came up with the line. If you start wrong, you finish wrong. Start right. Be where you're supposed to be. And we just went after it. We got 3rd in the Big Ten. We saved our job. We were 1st or 2nd in both those categories defensively.
Wow.
We flipped it. But I find out later through the guys that I hired that were on that team that are now on my staff that Raphael was setting the line for us from a discipline standpoint in everything that they did. No one was going to be late. No one was going to not toe the line. We all were here because they didn't want to see me get fired, but they also didn't want to leave either. They didn't want a new coach coming in, and now they would have that change. But I didn't find this out until 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, whenever it might have been. And to me, that's what kind of sticks out. Now, some of our Raphael's pretty opinionated. And so he'll say stuff on the Big Ten Network, and those guys will be like, our players will be like, what the heck's he talking about? I'll be like, well, guys, I just have a strong affinity towards him because this is what he did for me. And he didn't have to do that. And maybe he didn't do it for me. Maybe he did it for the team or he did it for himself because he wanted to stay. But I took it partly he did that to help me keep my job. And he was a great leader. He was a great defensive player. And we've really taken off since then. But if he doesn't do some of those things, I don't know if I'm here. And so like, that's what kind of resonates with me.
Beautiful. So Matt, we end this segment. This could go on for hours, but we end this segment with this question. Because we are so focused on Make a Difference, the Make a Difference podcast, we're going to ask you, who's made a difference in Matt Painter's life?
Parents, coaches, more than anything. So like, I owe a lot to basketball. Wow. First of all, I owe a lot to the game. And it's a one thing Coach Katie said, you got to get this program going again at Purdue. And then in 4 or 5 years, you can jump into the NABC, USA basketball, and all that stuff. But you need to take about 4 or 5 years. You start here and get this going, because he knows the time, that it takes. But, my parents, more than anything, my dad's passion for basketball really became mine. So my dad taught and coached, not taught, but he's an attorney, but he coached little kids basketball before my brother and I were of age to coach it. And I didn't find it out until 40, 50 years later. And I asked him, I'm like, why were you coaching 3rd and 4th grade basketball when we were 3, 4, 5 years old? He said, I wanted to be ready and know what I was doing before you guys got playing. Wow. And so it makes me laugh, but it's also like, when I was in 4th grade, this will kind of throw you for a loop here, but the milkman hit our basketball goal. Okay. So I don't know if you ever had a milkman.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. So they bring you fresh milk every day and put it in a little thing right next to your door. I know that just made me sound like I'm 85 years old, but I'm not. I'm 55. But he backed up into our basketball goal and made it crooked. And so one day I get home from school after complaining for about 6 months that I shoot on a crooked goal, and my dad put down a 50-foot slab of concrete with floodlights in our backyard. And I had like a field of dreams to play full court basketball every time I came home and every time I went. And my parents split when I was 12. And so my dad stayed in the house and my mom moved out, and my brother and sister moved in with my mom, and I stayed with my dad. But I really stayed with that basketball court. I mean, I love my dad. I don't want to dog my dad, but I stayed because I wanted to hoop. And that was just kind of, that's what I did. Like, that's what I did. I shot around. Like, when people say, did you work on your game? I'm like, no, I just shot around. I just shot all the time. I played pickup all the time. Like, I didn't have a workout partner. I didn't have anything, but I played outside. I played at Heacon Park. I played at McCullough Park. I played at the boys club. I played at the Y. I played at my high school. We went and found games. We got on a bike. I talked about the jock strap earlier. I put my jock strap on. I get on my bike and I go riding, and we'd play and we'd hoop. Or we play wiffle ball in my front yard, or we play tackle football in my front yard. And so when people would say like, hey, can you water ski? I'm like, no, I can't water ski. And they go, why can't you water ski? I was like, because I was playing wiffle ball in my front yard. That's why, because I was playing hoop in my backyard. And so we always talk, because I'm a Cubs fan and you're a Phillies fan, and we always do that. And now I got a place right by Wrigleyville, and I saw like 26 games this year, and people are like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, this is all I've ever done. Like, I watched the Cubs, and we played outside. That's what we did. We rode bikes, like we hooped. And today, when you say that to guys, they'll look at you like you're crazy. They'll be like they'll look at you like you're crazy, and you're like probably the worst thing for me is when I stopped playing other sports, because I was squirrely. I was someone who needed to stay busy with things. But when I was 15 years old, I went to basketball. I grew 8 inches, and that really helped too. But no, that was my answer in terms of people that have affected me. My parents. I had a great high school coach. I had a great college coach, and so very fortunate. Like you don't pick what you're born into. So I'm very very grateful for the parents that I had.
So we're really fortunate that you joined us. And Jared doesn't even know this yet, but one of the conversations we're going to have later is this book, Matt. It's called The Playground Principles.
Okay.
It's Barry Kleinman. Barry wrote this book, and it's basically about pickup basketball, the lessons that it taught you that that you now take into he's a headhunter in San Francisco, 75 years old, and he's connected with every player that came through Philadelphia. Never played for his high school team, but played in every playground in Philadelphia. And he wrote this book about it, Playground Principles.
I love it.
And I'll make sure you get a copy.
Oh, I'd love to read it.
It is exactly what you just talked about. And he has this great fear that this is going to go away and that kids are no longer going to be able to organize themselves or play baseball and say right field is an automatic out. We're not going to have anybody in right field. All those things that you did. So I will say this, Matt. You are a Hall of Fame guy, and you will one day be a Naismith Hall of Famer for all you've done for the game. Yep. Thank you for what you've done for making a difference.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you. I appreciate those words.
Matt, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
I mean, such a fascinating discussion to see just how cerebral he is about the game. I mean, it's a two-way street to be so cerebral, but then also be a people person. And that's what makes the best coaches. And you can hear it and you can feel it in everything that Matt Painter says. I mean, our thanks again to him for joining us. I mean, just absolutely terrific all around.
Yeah, not just the game though, Jared. It's the profession. You could feel that, like his respect for the coaches who have come before him, the people that he competes against. He's a special guy. Yeah, that was aces, no question about it. And it gave a lot. He could have done Coach's Corner, but now I'm going to jump in and do Coach's Corner. So we talked last week about writing your script and your practice, and that goes for business people, that goes for teachers, that goes for students. Excuse me. Follow your script. Follow your script. So today I say to everybody out there, are you a rules or a foundation person? If you're a rules, understand, then you must be the judge, the jury, the enforcer, and the record keeper. So somebody might say, well, what does that mean? Well, if player A commits indiscretion A, that leads to a result A, a consequence or a punishment A. When player B does that, you have to follow that same script. Where now everybody's going to look at you and say, well, you treated him different because he had double figures. He scored 2 touchdowns. He's an A student. Why was I treated differently? That never happens if you state, my intention is to treat all fairly, which means not the same. There are players, there are children in your family, hug them up all the time. There are others, you can be harsh. There are others, maybe a foot on the backside, and others that needed a pat on the back. Foundations stay with you. I'm not saying if rules are your thing, then be rules. But foundations, like respect. Respect each other. Respect each other's differences. Respect the game. Respect the institution that you're representing. Respect given, and then respect will be received. Communication. Now, we're in a world where everybody has a phone and everybody says, well, I communicated with them. I text. No. I'm talking about face-to-face communication. And what we say repeatedly on our podcast is listening is a communication skill. Let's work that out. Let's get everybody doing that. And then the last foundation was daily improvement. Daily improvement. Daily improvement as an office worker. Daily improvement as a teacher. Daily improvement as a parent. Daily improvement as a student. So for the young people, are they better students? Daily. Are they better, whatever their activity would be? Daily. Are they a better person? Daily. So to all the students out there and all the families that are lifting these students up, here's a simple question. Did they say hello to one person in their school that they had not talked to before? It's just a people skill, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. But you want to become a better person? Just pick one person a day that you normally don't talk with and connect with them. So Matt gave us a lot. Hopefully this helps. And I'm delighted that we've added this into the podcast. The Coach's Circle.
I think Coach Corner's been a terrific addition because as the season comes around, to just really get into basic principles and then more like in the weeds about the game and how you make this profession great.
Yes.
I think it's incredibly valuable, truly.
No question.
Just another thing to add to your calendar, really.
Yes. But I do have an admission to make for where I've been.
Okay.
So we went to the Tiger Woods Foundation at the Cobbs Creek Golf Course and met with Meredith Foote. And to think that at the age of 41, she's accomplished all of this, the PhDs and the Haverford College and the Columbia and the University of Pennsylvania, and her calm, that I walked away with this. She doesn't work. She doesn't work there. It's her passion to do this. So we are excited about following up and making sure that the Tiger Woods Foundation not just meets their goals in number of students they impact, but exceeds their goals. And then I came back from there and I did academy business. Philadelphia Coaching Academy has added 2 South Jersey sites. We'll be going to Shawnee High School Sunday, November 9th. And right away, Jared starts twitching. Sunday? That's the Birds. Well, the Birds that night play Sunday night football against the Lions at 8:20. So we will be at Shawnee from 12 to 3. Perfect.
No conflict there.
No conflict at all. And then Saturday, November 15th, we will go to Timber Creek. Rich Bowles is a longtime friend, and their booster club and their recreation departments have grabbed it. And we're going to go to an academy, 2 in South Jersey. Philadelphia Coaching Academy is coming to South Jersey November 9th and November 15th. Hope you can join us there. Then I went on IR. I shut down 3 days.
What happened?
This cough, and I could self-diagnose, but it wore me out. And I would get up and I would do a couple hours of work, and then I have to shut it down. So I shut it down until late in the week. I had an NIT committee call, which was great to connect with everybody on that committee. Jeff Jones, former Virginia player, American U coach, Virginia coach, Old Dominion coach. He will be the head of the committee this year. Then a podcast with Barry Kleinman. This is the book that I referenced with Matt Painter. It's called The Playground Principles. Do yours still matter? And you go through, and it talks about connection. It talks about picking sides, knowing your game, a winner mentality on your court, resiliency, because you go to the playground and maybe you didn't win any games that day. You come back the next day and you're gold. Like you just want to get picked to play in that first game. Barry has become a real dear friend, joined his podcast. He'll be joining us after the new year. Went to an academy at the School of the Future, Philadelphia Coaching Academy. And then I monitored the VCU Fairfield exhibition game. Just followed along on my phone and glanced up every once in a while to make sure that your Philadelphia Eagles were taking care of business at home. And I will just make one comment. Anybody that plays that sport after, what is that young man's name?
Bo Scatterboo. Yeah.
It's
heartbreaking, really.
Just
It-
hard to imagine that doesn't happen on every play with the force with which they play.
It's they're I mean they're modern day gladiators. It's a wonderful sport to watch. It's a ton of fun to root for, but it is like when you have those moments, uh, it's difficult because those guys love it. They love the game. They want to play, and we all want to watch it. But I mean,
Right.
it is just
Oof.
it happens in these things can happen in any sport, but also it's a brutal game.
It is.
So I wishing him the best. I know he's
Yeah.
a giant, but still wishing him the best. And
Yeah,
thankfully, the Eagles did take care of business, though. So
they did take care of it. Now, where will I go? So, are you ready? Because even this made me catch my breath.
let me get my calendar out open
Okay.
here for a second. Okay, yeah, I think good to go. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna be just tracking it
Yes.
live. So
Okay. I'm going to have a chance, or probably by the time this is out, I will have had the chance. Sixers versus Magic, connecting with Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner, and Jed Howard, along with trying to be in the aura of Jameer Nelson. So that'll be an exciting. Follow that up with a VCU staff checklist. Now that the exhibitions are behind and you're going into the season, I just have a checklist for them to ask some questions, like comp tickets. How are you going to handle post game? Do you want to engage with families? Some basketball information. Who's the best long passer on their team? So rather than get into a tight situation and say you throw it in and the kid has never played baseball or can't put the ball down the floor, you need to know that now, right? What's the timeout rule in college? What's the fight rule in college? All these things that they can now cover that maybe somebody would say, well, they seem to be special situations. Does everybody on their team know about gambling? We have a controversy, not a, this is a full blown situation in the NBA. So that's what we're going to do. Then Shaq's Hoagie Shack. I don't know if they're around anymore, but Dennis Shack is going to host me for a podcast. I'm looking forward to that one. Steve Porth, an esteemed professor at St. Joseph's, is connected in North Philadelphia with a basketball program, almost hoops for hope type thing. We're going to have a conversation with him, a doctor's appointment, a coaches versus cancer council meeting call, Big East rules seminar. So I'm prepared for my Big East games that I'll be doing on TV. St. Helena's Men's Club, we're going to be giving a talk. A fabulous, fabulous basketball player, Dennis Stanton, who played at Ursinus, was a Division III All-American, close friends with my son, Jim. And he's invited me to speak to the men's club there about a spiritual approach. Joe Lenardi has invited me to breakfast on a project he's working on about the palestra. Follow that, Angelo Cataldi has invited me to a lunch with Hollis Thomas, relax, Hollis Thomas, and Kenny from the Dirty 30. We're going to have a conversation. Now we're up to Saturday already. The week's just flying by. Billy Armstrong, terrific head coach at Bergen Catholic in New Jersey, is hosting a coaches clinic to benefit his foundation, which gives scholarships to inner city kids to go to really terrific schools in northern Jersey. Here's the lineup. Bob McKillop. Okay, anybody out there not familiar with Bob McKillop? He's Steph Curry's coach. Steph Curry is Steph Curry because of Bob McKillop at Davidson. Okay. Bob Hurley, hands down the best basketball coach in America, and yours truly batting cleanup. I'm bringing my A game. And then Sunday, anybody out there, the final academy in Philadelphia for this year, Archbishop Ryan, 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We're going to be joined by Greg Downer from Lower Merion. Joe Zaglinski from Archbishop Ryan, Chris Clark from St. Joe's Prep, all be presenting. What are we trying to do? Perfect your practices. So we're excited about this. Jimmy Dillon from the city of Philadelphia, Ernie Gallagher from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, the CYO commissioner. Everybody's on board. The academies have been a great experiment. We'll be back. But this one has the feel. Why Sunday? Why 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock? You already know. No Birds game. It's November. Hoops is in there, right? All those CYO coaches, middle school coaches, community coaches who do soccer or who do some activity on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, 12 to 3 in Northeast Philly, the Academy. Would love for you to join us. The Philadelphia Coaching Academy. And this will be our last stretch in Philadelphia. The following week, Shawnee High School in New Jersey. The following week, Timber Creek. We've also had a reach out from Northeast Pennsylvania. The gentleman that reached out to me was a former camper of ours. And he said, we get more New York activity. So it's way up there in that corner, Northeast corner. And we've already signed to go up there next September. All of that. And did I mention my son Jimmy's birthday? But other than that,
Can you actually restart it? I want to get to it.
No, I can't. Because unless I go back to my notes.
I was gonna say, do you have room on the calendar like to put all this in? How do you manage this?
I actually have 3 different systems. I have my television system. On the television system, I put the VCU games. I have my overall calendar, and then I have my block calendar. And so when something comes in in the future, I go to the block calendar, write it in. But then for the daily calendar, just a yellow pad, and I have every date listed. And then I write down and sometimes I'm like, ooh, that might be a little bit of a squeeze. And as we go forward, obviously, by the time we meet again, next week's podcast will be early enough for me to get on the road to get to VCU for their home opener against Wagner. But we're fitting it because the podcast first and the podcast guest next week, I may take off. So anybody's looking for me next week for the podcast, we are
news to me.
Bringing on an Eagles expert to talk with an Eagles fanatic. I may just have to take a back seat.
It'll be nice to check in at that time. Eagles on a bye, feeling a lot better than they probably felt 2 weeks ago, and I'm confident. I think they're gonna be just fine. I think that based on what I saw yesterday, I think they're gonna be just fine.
I take it from you. I mean, they are 6-2, right? And is anybody in their division close?
Not right now. Looks like they're pretty much running away with it already.
Okay. But next week's guest will give us inside the locker room access. And I'm sure that's going to be exciting for you. Just like Matt Painter and Meredith Foote and Dan Gavitt. And as we turn the calendar and go towards our second year, these 54 guests have a lot to measure up to, but so far, very special.
So far, so good. And definitely everyone has found their own way to make a difference, which has been really the goal here. And if you are looking to make a difference with Phil, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. That's where you can tell Phil your story to help him make a difference either on the court, off the court, in the workplace, or in the classroom. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We are at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. Or if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or another podcast platform, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating if you don't mind. The Martelli Minute every morning, 6:30 on Instagram at Phil_Martelli. Our thanks again to Matt Painter, head coach at Purdue. One of the very, very best in the business, at the top of the game right now. We wish him the best of luck on his season. And we have a bit of a break from the Birds, but it's still go Birds.
Okay, you're going to go Birds. I'm going go Rams for VCU.
Go Birds, go Rams.